So this section is for honors only, so CP and academic, you do not have to watch this video. So for this part, I'm going to go into detail about the parts of the immune system and what their functions are for the immune system. So the first part is antibodies. So antibodies are attached to the B cell so that it can recognize the invaders or foreign antigens that are found in the body. So antibodies serve to recognize invaders. And B cells, we'll talk more about how they actually make antibodies. So there's also free-floating antibodies. So as I said, those are going to be made by the B cell. So they're going to tag anything that they find in the body that may be an invader. So if it is an invader, then the macrophage is going to come around and ingest that invader. So how does the body recognize if the antigen is self versus not? So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it has to do with the T cell. The helper T cell is going to be what recognizes the antigen. So what it does is it attaches to the macrophage that just ingested that invader, and it's going to basically take those antigens and determine if this is good or bad. I don't know why the screen just did that, but just ignore it. So the helper T cell is then going to stimulate the B cell to reproduce and produce more antibodies, as well as we'll talk about a memory B cell that's going to remember this for the future. When helper T cells are disabled, this is where your immune system cannot function properly. So the T cells are not going to be able to determine what is self versus not self, and you may begin to attack your own cells. So this is called an autoimmune disorder, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. So these are all the different types of cells that we are going to talk about. So as I said, we have the macrophage, which is going to ingest the invader. Then the helper T cell is going to look at those antigens that were ingested and determine, is this worthy of an immune response? It's going to stimulate the B cell to make antibodies if it needs to fight something off. And then we'll talk about in a little bit what's called a cytotoxic T cell or a killer T cell. We'll review that in a little bit. But the B cell is going to split into two different types of cells. There's the plasma cell, which is going to be the one that makes antibodies, and the memory B cell that's going to remember that antigen for the future. See it again, sorry the screen did that, but so the other side is going to be the T cells. So if we want to stimulate killer T cells, that's going to be if the invader gets inside of your cells. So I'll show a demonstration in the next presentation of what happens when the invader gets inside of your cell. So why is it important that we have a way of stopping our immune system and not just fight all the time? So if you were always fighting something, you'd have more allergies, you might attack your own cells on accident. So it's extremely important to have this way of stopping so that it does not overreact.